In Korean dramas, the lead is supposed to own the story. The lead gets the poster, the central romance, the grand emotional arc, and the ending the audience is expected to remember. But sometimes, that is not what happens at all. Sometimes, a supporting actor walks into the frame, steals the emotional spotlight, and leaves with something even more powerful than screen time: the public's obsession. And that is exactly what makes this ranking so satisfying. Because Hwang In Yeop, Kim Min Kyu, and Kim Seon Ho are three of the clearest examples of Korean actors who rose dramatically because a supporting role hit harder than anyone expected. Hwang In Yeop shot to fame after playing Han Seo-jun in True Beauty. Kim Seon Ho's popularity soared after viewers fell for Han Ji-pyong in Startup, and Kim Min Kyu gained a huge wave of attention through his role as Cha Sung-hoon in A Business Proposal, even noting that his social media following jumped by more than 1.5 million after the drama. So among these three, who turned second lead energy into the biggest career breakthrough of all? What makes this ranking so interesting is that Hwang In Yeop, Kim Min Kyu, and Kim Seon Ho did not rise through ordinary lead actor trajectories. All three were already working actors, but the real turning point came when a supporting role created a reaction too strong for audiences to ignore. Hwang In Yeop's Han Seo-jun in True Beauty turned him into a breakout star almost overnight, with Soompi describing him as having rose to fame through that role, and later noting he had gained over 6 million Instagram followers since the drama began airing. Kim Min Kyu's popularity surged through A Business Proposal, and he himself said his social media following increased by more than 1.5 million after the drama. Kim Seon Ho experienced perhaps the most famous case of all, with Soompi reporting that his popularity skyrocketed after playing Han Ji-pyong in Startup, and that he gained about 4 million Instagram followers in the 3 months after the drama premiered. And that is exactly why this is not just a ranking about who became famous, because rising through a supporting role is a very specific kind of success. It means the audience felt something stronger than what the script technically assigned you. It means a character with less narrative priority created more emotional conversation than expected. Sometimes that becomes second lead syndrome. Sometimes it becomes a breakout moment so powerful that the actor's whole career shifts afterward. And sometimes it becomes the point where viewers stop asking, "Who is that?" and start asking, "Why isn't he the lead?" So for this ranking, we are judging them through 4 layers. First, there is breakout intensity, how strongly the supporting role changed their career trajectory. Second, there is audience obsession, whether viewers became emotionally attached to the character beyond what was expected. Third, there is career acceleration, how much momentum the actor gained after that role. And finally, there is lasting identity, whether that supporting role breakthrough became a defining part of the actor's rise. That is why this top 3 works so well. Hwang In Yeop represents explosive second lead charm. Kim Min Kyu represents supporting role popularity turned into broader recognition, and Kim Seon Ho represents the purest and most iconic case of a supporting role becoming a national obsession. If there is one actor in this ranking who represents the pure emotional chaos of second lead syndrome, it is Hwang In Yeop. Before True Beauty, Hwang In Yeop was not a household name. He had appeared in projects like 18 Again, but nothing had prepared audiences for what would happen when he stepped into the role of Han Seo-jun. Because the moment he appeared on screen, something shifted. He was not the main lead, he was not the official romantic endgame. But emotionally, for a huge portion of viewers, he became the center of the story. That is the essence of a true supporting role breakout. Han Seo-jun was written as the classic second male lead, rebellious, guarded, emotionally wounded, but deeply loyal. On paper, it is a familiar archetype. But what made Hwang In Yeop's performance so powerful was how natural it felt. He did not play Seo-jun like a dramatic fantasy. He played him like someone real, Someone who loved quietly, suffered silently, and never demanded attention even when he deserved it. That kind of restraint is exactly what triggers second lead syndrome, because audiences begin to feel that the character is being overlooked, and that emotional imbalance creates attachment, and the reaction was immediate. As reported by Soompi, Hwang In Yeop rose to fame through True Beauty, gaining over 6 million Instagram followers during the drama's run. That kind of growth is not just popularity. It is a signal that viewers were not simply watching him. They were emotionally investing in him. His scenes were widely shared, his character became the subject of endless debates, and for many viewers, the question was not, who will the female lead choose, but why is she not choosing him? What makes Hwang In Yeop especially interesting in this ranking is how clearly that one role redefined his career. After True Beauty, he was no longer just another rising actor. He became someone casting directors and audiences actively paid attention to. He moved into lead roles, including dramas like The Sound of Magic and Why Her, showing that the industry recognized the scale of his breakout. That is one of the key markers of a successful supporting role rise, when the momentum does not fade after the drama ends, but instead transforms into new opportunities. But at the same time, there is something important to note. Hwang In Yeop's rise is strongly tied to one defining moment. His breakout was explosive, emotional, and incredibly memorable, but it is also very clearly connected to Han Seo-joon as a character. That does not make it weaker. In fact, it is what makes it so iconic. But compared to the others in this ranking, his identity as a breakout star still leans heavily on that one role rather than multiple supporting role moments or a broader pattern of second lead dominance. And that is exactly why he belongs in this top 3. Because when it comes to turning a supporting role into an emotional phenomenon, very few actors have done it as effectively as Hwang In Yeop. He did not just gain attention, he made audiences feel something intense enough to change how they experienced the entire drama. And that is the power of a true second lead breakout. If Hwang In Yeop represents emotional intensity and second lead heartbreak, then Kim Min Kyu represents something very different. The quiet power of a supporting role that unexpectedly becomes irresistible. Because unlike the classic second lead archetype, Kim Min Kyu's breakthrough did not come from emotional suffering or tragic love. It came from charm, composure, and a character who was never meant to compete for the spotlight, yet somehow did anyway. That role was Cha Sung-hoon in A Business Proposal. On paper, Sung-hoon is not the center of the story. He is the loyal secretary, the calm presence next to the main lead, the kind of character who supports the narrative rather than drives it. But what Kim Min Kyu did with that role completely changed how audiences perceived him. He made subtlety addictive. His performance was built on small details, controlled expressions, quiet confidence, and a romantic dynamic that felt natural rather than exaggerated. And when paired with the second female lead, his storyline became one of the most talked-about elements of the entire drama. Viewers were not just watching him, they were waiting for his scenes, and that is when a supporting role becomes something more. According to Kim Min Kyu himself, his Instagram following increased by more than 1.5 million after A Business Proposal aired. That number may be smaller than some explosive breakout cases, but it represents something important. Consistent audience interest across a global platform like Netflix, where the drama reached international viewers and allowed his popularity to spread beyond Korea. Soompi. Calm. What makes Kim Min Kyu stand out in this ranking is how balanced his rise feels. He did not dominate the conversation the way a tragic second lead might. He did not create massive fan wars or emotional debates about who should have been chosen. Instead, he built a quieter kind of popularity, one based on likability, visual appeal, and a character that audiences genuinely enjoyed watching. And that kind of appeal travels well internationally. After A Business Proposal, Kim Min Kyu gained more visibility, more recognition, and more opportunities. He became a familiar face to global K-drama audiences, not because of one overwhelming emotional storyline, but because he delivered a performance that was easy to love and hard to ignore. However, this is also where his ranking becomes interesting. Because compared to Hwang In Yeop, his breakout was less emotionally intense, and compared to Kim Seon Ho, who we are about to talk about, his supporting role impact did not reach the same level of cultural obsession. But that does not make it less meaningful. It simply makes it different. Kim Min Kyu proves that you do not always need dramatic heartbreak or narrative dominance to stand out. Sometimes all it takes is the right role, the right tone, and a performance that quietly captures the audience's attention and keeps it. And in a ranking about rising through supporting roles, that kind of subtle success absolutely deserves a place. If Hwang In Yeop represents emotional impact and Kim Min Kyu represents quiet charm, then Kim Seon Ho represents something even more powerful, a supporting role that completely takes over the entire conversation. Because when we talk about actors who rose through supporting roles, there is one name that almost always comes up first, and that is Kim Seon Ho in Startup. From the very beginning, his character Han Ji-pyong was not supposed to be the center of the story. He was written as the second male lead, intelligent, sharp, emotionally guarded, and ultimately not the chosen one. But what happened during the airing of Startup was something very rare. He did not just gain popularity, he redefined the audience's emotional focus. Han Ji-pyong quickly became the most talked-about character in the entire drama. Viewers were not just watching his storyline, they were emotionally invested in it at a level that began to overshadow the main romance. The term second lead syndrome was no longer just a concept. It became the central experience of watching the show, and Kim Seon Ho was at the center of it. According to Soompi, his popularity skyrocketed after Startup, with his Instagram following increasing by around 4 million in just 3 months. But more importantly, his character dominated online discussions, fan debates, and viewer reactions. The question was no longer, who is the male lead? It became, why is he not the male lead? Soompi.com. That level of impact is extremely rare, because it means the audience emotionally rewrote the hierarchy of the story. And when that happens, the actor is no longer just part of the drama. They become the reason people are watching. What makes Kim Seon Ho even stronger in this ranking is what happened after. Following Startup, he did not fade back into supporting roles. Instead, he transitioned directly into leading man status, with projects like Hometown Cha-Cha-Cha further cementing his popularity. That is one of the clearest signs of a successful supporting role breakout, when the industry responds immediately and decisively. His rise was not just fast, it was definitive. And unlike Hwang In Yeop, whose breakthrough is strongly tied to one iconic character, or Kim Min Kyu, whose popularity grew steadily through charm and visibility, Kim Seon Ho's case feels like a perfect storm. The right character, the right timing, and the right performance, all aligning to create a cultural moment. That is why, in a ranking like this, he becomes very difficult to beat. Because he did not just succeed as a supporting actor. He took over the narrative. So now we come to the final question. Among Hwang In Yeop, Kim Min Kyu, and Kim Seon Ho, who truly had the most powerful rise through a supporting role? To answer that, we have to go back to the 4 criteria: breakout intensity, audience obsession, career acceleration, and lasting identity. Because this ranking is not about who is the most famous overall, it is about who turned a supporting role into the biggest career-defining moment. What makes this top 3 so fascinating is that they show 3 different paths to the same outcome. Hwang In Yeop proves the power of emotional connection. Kim Min Kyu proves the strength of subtle charm. And Kim Seon Ho proves what happens when everything aligns into one unforgettable moment. But in the end, the audience always decides. And sometimes, they choose the supporting role. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more deep dives into K-drama stars and hidden breakout stories. And tell me in the comments, which supporting role made you fall harder than the main lead?